The vaulted ceiling of the Krill War Council chamber shimmered with an internal aurora, reflecting the anxieties that crackled within the gathered dignitaries. A low, rhythmic pulse emanated from the crystalline floor, a constant reminder of the planet's tectonic instability, and perhaps the even greater upheaval that threatened to fracture their meticulously crafted civilization. The air itself seemed thick with unspoken dread, a miasma born of countless projections, intercepted communications, and the unsettling silence that had enveloped their long-range sensors. For cycles, the Krill had observed, studied, and debated the ascendant Terrans, a species barely registered on the galactic stage until their sudden, audacious emergence. Now the Terrans were a looming question mark, a volatile variable disrupting the delicate balance of the known universe. Their technologies, their intentions, their very nature remained an enigma. Grand Arbiter Xyler, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the iridescent light, surveyed the assembled council. His mandibles twitched, a nervous tick betraying his usually stoic composure. He cleared his throat, the sound amplified in the vast chamber, and began to speak, his voice a gravelly rasp that resonated through the crystal structure. The reports are disquieting. The Terrans continue their relentless expansion. Their sphere of influence is growing, like a contagion, consuming systems at an alarming rate. We have intercepted their transmissions, analyzed their propaganda, dissected their philosophical treatises, and still we do not understand them. A ripple of unease spread through the council. Krill diplomats, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the complex calculations churning within their minds, exchanged worried glances. War strategists, their armor adorned with intricate glyphs of past victories, fidgeted, their antennae twitching with a mixture of aggression and uncertainty. The very fabric of their society, built on millennia of careful planning and cautious expansion, was being challenged by a species that seemed to operate on a completely different set of rules. Their technology, a senator from the mining guild finally dared to interject, her voice a reedy whine that echoed through the chamber. Their technology is unprecedented. We have seen their energy weapons pierce shields that have withstood celestial bombardments. We have witnessed their vessels navigate spatial anomalies that should have torn them apart. And their construction capabilities, are they not building a warship? The question hung in the air, a poisoned barb aimed at the heart of the Council's anxieties. The whispers of the Terran's construction capabilities, the impossible engineering feats, were a source of terror and bewilderment. Building a warship was an act of aggression, a declaration of intent. But building this warship, the one the Krill analysts had been piecing together from fragments of sensor data and intercepted schematics, was something else entirely. It defied the laws of physics, the established principles of shipbuilding, even the fundamental understanding of spacetime itself. Arbiter Xyler fixed his gaze on the senator, his mandibles clicking softly. Indeed, the data suggests that they are constructing a vessel of unimaginable scale, a vessel that, if the projections are accurate, could pose a significant threat. The chamber became a tableau of suppressed fear. The Krill, a species known for their meticulous planning and aversion to risk, were suddenly faced with a threat they could not comprehend. Their military strategies, their diplomatic protocols, their very worldview were rendered obsolete by the sudden emergence of this unknown factor. The Terrans were a chaotic element, a wild card in a game they had thought they had mastered. A stern-faced war strategist, his armor emblazoned with the symbol of orbital superiority, rose to speak. With all due respect, Grand Arbiter, shouldn't we simply destroy the threat before it truly materializes? We possess the firepower to cripple their nascent civilization. A preemptive strike, a surgical. The Arbiter raised a hand, cutting off the strategist. Such an action carries immense risk. The Terrans, despite their perceived backwardness, have proven themselves to be resourceful, resilient, and unpredictable. A preemptive strike could ignite a galactic conflict, and we lack the certainty that we will be victorious. The silence that followed was broken only by the rhythmic pulse of the chamber, a relentless heartbeat echoing the mounting tension. The Krill, masters of their own destiny for eons, were now caught in a web of uncertainty, paralyzed by a threat they couldn't understand, a threat they had underestimated. The warship, the impossible warship the Terrans were building, represented not just a technological challenge, but a fundamental existential threat. Another senator, this one representing the Trade Consortium, spoke, his voice laden with a mixture of concern and economic self-interest. Perhaps a diplomatic approach would be more prudent. We could offer them resources, technology a place within our trading network. Appeasement, perhaps, could prove less costly than war. Appeasement? The war strategist spat the word out like a venomous insect. The Terrans are barbarians. They are driven by a primal lust for expansion. They will not be swayed by offers of wealth or power. They crave dominance. The debate raged for cycles. Arguments were made and refuted, strategies proposed and discarded. The Krill, once unified in their ambition for galactic dominance, were now fractured by fear and indecision. The shadow of the Terrans and their impossible warship loomed over them, threatening to shatter their carefully constructed empire. All sensors were focused on a small, insignificant star system, a place that held the key to the Krill's fate. High above the planet of Xylos, a lone Krill observation station, a spiderweb of sensor arrays and communication relays, hung suspended in the black void. Inside, the technicians and analysts, their bodies encased in sterile white jumpsuits, hunched over their consoles, their multifaceted eyes fixed on the data streams flowing across their screens. The mood within the station was one of intense concentration and subdued anxiety. They were the eyes and ears of the Krill Empire, tasked with monitoring the Terrans and, if necessary, initiating a first contact protocol. One of the technicians, a young Krill named ZZ Glorg, noticed an anomaly in the data. A flicker, a distortion, a faint energy signature emanating from the Terran system. He brought it to the attention of his supervisor, a seasoned analyst named Cathar, whose antennae twitched with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Cathar scrutinized the readings. His internal processors were running at maximum capacity, cross-referencing the incoming data with the vast archives of information they had collected on the Terrans. The anomaly was like nothing they had ever encountered. It defied all known principles of physics. "Report," Cathar demanded, his voice a low growl. "The signature is fluctuating, sir," ZZ Glorg reported, his voice tight. "It's growing and there is a pattern in it. Oh, a code." Cathar immediately initiated a decryption protocol. He focused on the flickering signal, the faint energy waves that were bleeding through the void. His optical sensors traced the patterns. His mental processes sought out the complex algorithms, attempting to decipher the alien language embedded in the pulse. Hours passed, marked only by the hum of the machines and the hushed whispers of the technicians. They worked tirelessly, their bodies fueled by nutrient paste, and their minds driven by an insatiable curiosity, fueled by fear. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the decryption algorithm locked. The coded message was translated, projected onto a holographic display in the center of the room. The words appeared in the alien Terran script, a language the Krill had painstakingly compiled and translated over cycles of study. The message, stark and simple, sent a chill through the observation station. It was a communication addressed not to the Krill Empire, but to the entirety of known space. The Krill read the message, their optical sensors absorbing every line, their processors analyzing every nuance. They were stunned. "To all sentient species," the message began, its tone direct and devoid of any diplomatic pretense. "We are the Terran Federation. We observe your actions. We understand your fears. We seek only peaceful coexistence. We have constructed a vessel, a symbol of our potential. A vessel that has the capacity to build, not destroy. We welcome communication, and we welcome all visitors." The Krill, accustomed to elaborate diplomatic posturing, felt a surge of confusion. This was not the arrogant boast of conquerors or the desperate plea of a civilization on the brink of collapse. It was a simple yet complex offer of peace. But what of the warship? What of the potential for destruction? The message made no reference to weapons or conflict. Instead, it described their vessel as an example of their technological capabilities. "They're inviting us," ZZ Glorg whispered, his voice trembling. Cathar, his usually rigid posture softened by a flicker of curiosity, nodded slowly. "It appears so." He turned to the communication officer. "Transmit a response, acknowledge their message, request coordinates for a rendezvous, make it official, diplomatic." "Sir, are you sure? Should we not consult the council?" The comms officer looked uneasy. "The council is debating. They are afraid. We are the first to receive this communication. Our duty is to respond," Cathar said. He then added, "Our duty is to see what they have done." A long silence filled the station. Then the comms officer set to work. The Krill knew in that moment that everything was about to change. Their assumptions, their fears, and their place in the galactic order all were subject to the whims of the Terrans. The impossible warship was still a mystery, but one thing was certain: the Terrans had made the first move. They had offered not destruction, but a path towards understanding. Weeks passed. The Krill, after days of heated debate and cautious maneuvering, authorized a diplomatic mission to the Terran system. A delegation of ambassadors, scientists, and military observers was assembled and assigned to a specialized exploration vessel. They were instructed to gather as much information as possible, to assess the Terrans' true intentions, and to evaluate the threat posed by the impossible warship. The voyage was long, filled with tension and anticipation. The Krill delegation was aware they were representing the entire Krill Empire, carrying the weight of centuries of strategic planning on their shoulders. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, their ship arrived in orbit of the Terran system. The Terran world, a vibrant blue and green sphere, hung in the void, a testament to the power of nature. They had expected a fortified planet, ringed with defense platforms and bristling with weapons. Instead, they found peace. The readings indicated no active defense systems. The planetary shields were down or non-existent. As they approached, they saw the warship, a colossal structure, a testament to Terran engineering, floating serenely in space. The warship defied all expectations. It was a marvel of design and engineering. It was sleek, elegant, and non-threatening. Its hull was not marred by weapon emplacements or defensive turrets. The sensors indicated no offensive capabilities. Instead, the vessel radiated a sense of power, a sense of purpose. As the Krill ship approached the massive craft, a low, melodic tone echoed through the void. A holographic projection materialized, a symbol of the Terran Federation, its emblem a stylized image of a star. Then, a message. It was a greeting, welcoming the Krill delegation to their vessel. It invited them to dock and offered them a guided tour. The Krill ambassadors exchanged wary glances. They were prepared for hostility, for deception, even for outright war. They were not prepared for hospitality. After a lengthy debate, the decision was made. They would accept the invitation. The docking procedure was seamless. The massive docking bay of the Terran vessel enveloped the Krill ship. As the airlock sealed, the delegation stood poised, ready for any eventuality. Then, the doors opened. What the Krill delegation saw was not a war machine. It was a city, a sprawling complex of laboratories, living quarters, and recreational facilities. The ship was vast beyond their comprehension. Humans, their bodies clad in simple, functional uniforms, greeted them with smiles and gestures of welcome. Their faces radiated a calm, confident air. The humans spoke to them with respect and patience. They explained the ship's purpose, its function, its history. The delegation was led on a guided tour by a young Terran woman, her eyes bright with a sense of wonder. She spoke fluent Krill, learned through painstaking effort. She explained the ship's purpose. She did not speak of weapons or aggression, but of exploration, of discovery, of the betterment of the universe. "Welcome to the Aegis," the woman announced, her voice filled with quiet pride. "This is not a warship. This is a monument to our potential, to our hopes, and to our understanding of the universe. It is a vessel of exploration. We wish to open communication, develop technology, and further develop the galactic community with all species. We have studied your culture, your history, your biology. We respect it. We simply wish to explore the mysteries of the universe together." The Krill delegation followed her through the ship, their initial apprehensions slowly giving way to a grudging respect. They saw laboratories where scientists were working on energy technology, the potential to create a fusion reactor, the potential to terraform planets. They saw living quarters where humans of different backgrounds lived side by side, sharing knowledge and culture. The heart of the ship, the bridge, was a vast, open space dominated by a massive holographic display. The display showed the ship's current location, a map of the known universe, and a series of complex data streams. It was beautiful, stunning, a symphony of light and sound. The woman whom the Krill learned was named Alara explained the ship's mission: to map the galaxy, to study celestial phenomena, and to seek out new life. Alara paused, her gaze sweeping over the faces of the Krill delegation. "We understand your initial apprehension. We know that the word warship carries a certain baggage, but we assure you our intentions are peaceful. We have no desire for conquest. We simply seek knowledge and understanding." As the tour progressed, a revelation emerged. The impossibly powerful vessel was not for war. It was for creation. The Krill were stunned to learn the ship, the Aegis, was designed to build entire planets, terraform worlds, and assist civilizations. The ship itself was a weapon against the silence of the universe, not a weapon of war. The warship the Krill had feared was a factory of life, a vessel of unimaginable potential. The Krill, who had prepared for battle, found themselves humbled. The humans, who had been underestimated, had not only met, but exceeded their expectations. They had offered not destruction, but a pathway to unity. The Krill ambassadors were given an audience with the Terran leaders. These individuals, elected representatives of their species, welcomed the Krill with genuine warmth and respect. They spoke of cooperation, of shared goals, and of a future of understanding. The Krill, who had come prepared for battle, found themselves in a room of peace. The air was filled not with the tension of war, but with the promise of unity. The Krill were astonished. The Terrans, once perceived as a threat, were now offering something far more valuable, a chance to build a better future. The Krill delegation returned to their ship, their minds reeling. They had come to assess a threat. They had found an opportunity. They had learned the truth of humanity. Back on Xylos, the Grand Arbiter received the delegation's report with a mixture of disbelief and fascination. The War Council chamber was once again filled with the hum of unspoken questions. The Arbiter listened to the delegation, the long explanations of their tour of the Aegis, the description of the Terrans' advanced technology, and their surprisingly ethical worldview. The Arbiter turned to the war strategist, whose face was a mask of confusion. "So there are no weapons." The strategist hesitated. "Their vessel's defenses are formidable, but they are designed to protect, not to attack. Their energy output is enormous, but it is directed towards creating, not destroying." The Grand Arbiter nodded, his mandibles twitching. "And their intentions?" The lead ambassador cleared his throat. "They seek to share their knowledge. They wish to cooperate. They desire peaceful relations. They have invited us to join their initiative to explore and expand." The council chamber was silent. The Krill, masters of their own destiny, were faced with a paradox. They had expected war. They had prepared for conflict, but instead they were offered something different, a hand of friendship, a chance to work together. The Grand Arbiter turned to face the council, his voice firm. "We underestimated them. The Terrans are not what we feared. They are something more. Their technology surpasses our own. Their potential is unlimited. But most importantly, their ethics are something to be admired." A slow wave of understanding rippled through the chamber. The fear began to recede, replaced by a cautious optimism. The Terrans were not the barbaric conquerors they had imagined. They were something new, something remarkable. Then a low chime echoed through the chamber, originating from the comms room. The comms officer, his usually impassive face etched with concern, spoke. "Grand Arbiter, we have received a priority communication from the Terran vessel Aegis." "Patch it through," the Arbiter commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the face of Alara, the Terran woman who had led the tour of the Aegis. Her expression was serious, her voice filled with urgency. "Greetings, Krill Council," she said, her tone steady. "We are transmitting this message with a sense of extreme urgency. We have just discovered something that requires your immediate attention." A hush fell over the chamber. The Krill delegation held their collective breath. "During our exploration of a distant system," Alara continued, her voice grave, "we have detected a signal of immense age, a signal that originates from outside of the known universe." The council chamber seemed to shrink, the walls closing in. The implications of this revelation were staggering. A signal from outside the known universe, a concept that defied their understanding of space, time, and existence. Alara continued, her voice filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "This signal, it appears to be a warning of a threat far greater than any we have ever imagined. The signal is growing stronger. The threat is coming." The holographic display flickered, then showed a brief, terrifying image. A swirling vortex of energy, a cascade of impossible geometries, a cosmic horror that transcended comprehension. Then the image vanished and Alara's face reappeared. "The nature of this threat is unknown, but its potential for destruction is limitless. We believe it is not one that can be confronted alone. We believe that we will need the combined efforts of every sentient species in the galaxy to survive." The Grand Arbiter stared at the projection, his internal processors working overtime. He turned to the council. "The Terrans, they did not build this vessel for conquest. They built it to prepare, to explore, to understand, and now to warn us. They have shown us our errors. They are the harbinger of hope in the face of an uncertain future." The gravity in the chamber became almost unbearable. The Krill, who had once feared the Terrans, were now faced with the terrifying reality that their survival depended on them. They were no longer the master of their own fate. They were now a part of something far bigger, far more dangerous. The Arbiter made a decision. We will join them. We will stand with them. We will forge an alliance with the Terran Federation. We will prepare for this unknown threat. We will build a future together. The Council, though still reeling from the shock of the revelation, echoed his sentiments. They had underestimated the Terrans, but they had learned from their mistake. They would not underestimate the universe. They would not underestimate the threat that was coming. Ilara's face, etched with a mixture of relief and determination, reappeared on the screen. We are grateful for your cooperation. We will share all of our knowledge, all of our resources. We believe that together we can overcome this challenge. As the communication ended, a collective resolve filled the Krill chamber. The fear remained, but now it was tempered by a sense of unity, a sense of shared purpose. They would face the unknown together. They would fight for their survival together. They would build a new future together. The Grand Arbiter turned to his war strategist, his voice firm. Begin preparations for a defense plan. Start immediately. He turned to the Trade Senator. I will need all available resources. Begin the allocation process. The Arbiter then nodded at the communication officer. Transmit our acceptance. Begin the process of integration. Now. The chamber, once filled with anxiety and suspicion, now vibrated with a shared determination. The Krill, once isolated by their fear, were now part of something greater. They had seen the true face of humanity and found themselves humbled. The impossible warship, the vessel built for creation, the Aegis, had become a beacon of hope in the face of an encroaching darkness. The Terrans, the species they had underestimated, had shown them the true potential of unity. The Krill had to make ready. They had to build the impossible, and they had to fight. The holographic display flickered to life again, this time displaying the image of the Aegis, the impossible warship soaring through the stars. The camera panned across its vast hull, showcasing its intricate design and unparalleled scale. The camera slowly zoomed out, revealing the ship's position in relation to the Krill system. The image was overlaid with the words of a Terran poet, whose words, translated into the Krill language, echoed through the chamber. In the face of the unknown, the strongest weapon is not steel or fire. It is hope. It is unity. It is the unwavering belief in a future worth fighting for. The Krill, united with the Terrans, began to prepare, their fears replaced with a grim determination. The galaxy held its breath, awaiting the coming storm. But the Krill knew one thing: they were not alone. And the impossible warship, the beacon of hope, was waiting. The impossible warship was built by the Terrans, the vessel that would change the destiny of the galaxy.